All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and take this thing apart to show you guys the hydraulics, how I did the hydraulics in here. I know you guys are having some of you guys are having a hard time with figuring out where the layout is, and I didn't really get many good pictures of how I did my inside. So we'll go ahead and I'm gonna take this apart. I'll leave the undercarriage because that's pretty simple or pretty straightforward. As far as the instructions, it's going to be the upper carriage that's going to be a little bit more difficult for some of you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm going to start taking it apart. We'll start taking things out, and then I'll be able to kind of show you guys how I have mine laid out. But just a quick glimpse, you can kind of see in a little bit, you can see my valves are here in the center, and actually everything else is over here. I got my pump inside this the faux tank here, and then the rest of the electronics are actually all over here, and then my battery sits right in here, just like so. So just like that. Obviously the cab would be on there, but yeah, I know a few of you guys have had some questions, and you're trying to figure out how to get everything kind of laid out in here. And let's go ahead and explain that and start breaking this down and show you guys how I did mine, and then how I kind of stacked everything inside of here. So let's get to it. I already have this portion built. We'll go over that. I have the cab built. This is actually just one piece with a couple doors, and then the arm, which is glued, and then of course the undercarriage. As far as the motors, the slip ring, the bearings, the kingpin, and then the blade and such. And then yeah, we'll go over pretty much everything that we're looking at here, and then we'll talk about the hydraulics and just see if we can kind of do a pretty straightforward build video once you're to this point. But yeah, mostly I want to go over the hydraulics and help anybody that is having any trouble with that as far as placement, and then how to do it. So, all right, let's go ahead and get going, and I hope you guys can enjoy. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on this. Excuse me. So, like I said, before, we're not gonna take everything apart. We're gonna make this video relatively simple and try and make it quick. So just go ahead and start by following the instructions, and I'll have those up as well. So we'll start with the main frame for the undercarriage. Okay, what you're gonna want to do is the weight covers. Okay, those are to be glued in. I didn't glue mine in because the ring gear actually sits right on top of those. That way I can access them later. You could do the same thing that I did, and essentially what I did is I added some lead shot in there, which is shot. I had some extra or old shotgun shells, and they're just really tiny, like little lead pellets. They're also lead ballasts or things for like scuba diving. They could be in weights for like working out, you know, the things that go around ankles or things like that for when you're walking. What's inside those are actually ballasts and things like that for scuba diving. Those are pretty expensive. Shotgun shells, if you guys can find anybody that has some laying around, for this you'd probably only need like 6 of them, maybe not even that much, but that's what I used in here. And that's how I had got my weight in here. This probably weighs, I don't know, it doesn't weigh very much, maybe a pound or 2, maybe not even that. All right, so once you go ahead and get your weight in there, go ahead and get your ring gear on, and that gets screwed in with 6 M3x12 self-tapping screws. And then, like I said, that'll keep your covers on. And then that'll be it for the main frame. And then we'll go ahead and start to get your blade on. Okay, so build your blade like again in the manual. Get your actuator on there. And actually, let's see when it says to do that. No, it doesn't say when to do it. Maybe later on. Let me look. Nope, don't really have one in there. Let me see if it says anything here. No. So yeah, just do that now. Get it's a 10 millimeter actuator, and I'm using the hardware that comes with it, which is the actuators usually come with these screws here, and that's all I'm using for the blade, for the whole blade here. One goes in just like that, this way, and then another one here. I'm not using any nuts. I've never had any of them fall out, and once it kind of gets in there, it's pretty tight. I'm using an M4 threaded rod for the blade here, and it doesn't look like it's in there all the way, but that's what I'm using for mine. What you should use is let me get the calipers wherever those are. What you should be using is an M4 by 75 millimeter threaded rod with M4 lock nuts on each side of the blade. So that's what you're going to do to go ahead and get the blade in. All right, and then once you get the blade in, don't run your wires in just yet, because we're going to have to get the bearings and such in there. So just leave the wire hanging for right now. So that'll be for the blade. And then we'll go ahead and start doing the running gear. You don't want to do the running gear just yet, because we need to go ahead and start fishing wires and such through. All right, so what we're going to need to do is, I know in the manual it says to do it later on in this step, and we're going to go ahead and talk about it before that. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is take your bearings in like you would in step 10. All right, so you're going to take your 30 by 37 millimeter bearings, press them in to the main frame here on both sides, one from the top, one from the bottom. All right, and then once that's done, you'll go ahead and take your keen pin here, which is this gray piece, and you're going to go ahead and push that up in through the bottom. All right, and then once that is done, then we can go back to this step, which is step 4, and then getting our running gear done. Okay, so get your bearings in, your keen pin, all right, and then we'll go ahead and start running these motors, and then get the wiring done. All right, so we'll carry on with step 4. Get your worm gear motors. All right, what I did is I pre-wired mine, and then I fished them through this line here, and then you'll see my my solder here. All right, so that's what that'll look like. So imagine this green, and hopefully you guys can see this green and red wire is, I'm gonna zoom in real quick just so you guys can see. So imagine this slip ring wasn't here just yet. All right, so your keen pin would be in there, your bearings, and then your wire would go through. All right, and then we're gonna do that on both sides. So let me fish these wires through. All right, so that's kind of like what you would be looking at right there, is something just like that. Okay, so let me make sure you guys can see. There we go. This is going to be your it's either going to be your passenger or your driver's side inside track guide, and then you have your outside track guide, which is going to be this one. Okay, but first we're going to go ahead and get our outside. Okay, in this case, it's going to be our driver. Or you're going to press your 3 millimeter bearing into here. You may need to clean this up. When I printed mine, it was printed like this, and there's a bunch of support in here. So I clean that up. All right, and then go ahead and slide the shaft into place here. Okay, and it's going to look something just like this. Right? Okay, so once you get that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our motor cover here. Okay, now there's going to be differences between the driver and the passenger side. Okay, you'll notice that this one has a slight buildup on one side, and then the other side is just nice and flat. Okay, so let me make sure I didn't pay attention when I took it apart. So this flat part up here. Okay, you'll see the difference. Here's this one, and then this one here. Okay, this one goes up. Okay, so right now we're working on the driver side, so the driver motor mount. All right, and this is actually going to be the passenger side because it goes like that. Okay, so the driver is going to go like this with the opening. All right, and then what you're going to do, if I can do it, come on, my friend. Let me take it off of this. I'm going to put it inside the housing first. Okay, so it goes in just like so. All right, and then it kind of clips in. Not clips in, it just slides right in just like that. Okay, and then to lock that in, I'm gonna go ahead and take my M2 by 5mm screws, self-tapping, and just to start it off, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Vinny, come on, bro. So just start it off. I'm just gonna get the one in there, just so I can do all that. And I'm gonna just do this passenger side while we're here as well. Just get it done at one swing. All right, so get it inside the motor cover, pop it up, okay? And then what you're gonna need to do is just pull yours tight. I'm gonna kind of hold this one in place and just pull it, because what we're doing is I don't want any of the wires to get pinched in there. So as I'm doing that, I'm gonna slide this down into the position here, and then we'll pull a little bit of the slack out. Okay, now that's in position. We'll do the same thing with this one. Okay, just get it in position, hold it just like I am, right? And then we'll go ahead and pull that slack out, slide it, drop it in place, pull that slack, and that looks good there. Okay, so now I'm just gonna kind of leave that dangling there, and then we're gonna take our outside track guides. Okay, so this is gonna be our passenger. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my M3 rod, or threaded rod, and it says by 100, M3 by 100. I'm just gonna double check that. And that's not right. And I'll adjust that. It's actually M3 by 140mm. Okay, so I start mine off by putting the lock nut on one side of both of the rods here, and that just makes it easier to tighten down. Okay, so go ahead and slide them all in place, and then we're gonna go ahead and start to feed them through here. All right. You may need to wobble it around. You may need to bend it out a little bit just to see where your rod is. And I got one in, and then usually that makes the second one relatively easy. All right, so we're gonna go until it just hits this other side, and then we'll line that up. And I'm lining it up with the hole. Got one. Usually when you get one, the other one kind of just goes in place. All right. Okay, so we have that done. As far as that, I'm gonna just go ahead and take my actuator wires, and I'm just gonna fish those through. All right, and then this would be a good time, yeah, just to fish those through. I was gonna say solder, but don't solder anything yet because you don't have your slip ring in. All right, so we'll go ahead and take our screw here. We're gonna go just tighten all these down real quick, or get these in. And then, if you guys don't have one of these screw guns, I would highly suggest you get one. I got mine off of Amazon for 18 bucks. Amazon Basics. This was actually made by who was it made by? Skill, or it was made by a bigger company, but Amazon. They make them for Amazon as well. Yeah, I really like it though. Makes things way easier. Okay, so we have that mounted. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take 2 more of these M3 nuts and take our guide here. All right, take our outside guide here, and we're gonna get it into position. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and get our M3 nut. Start to get that going. One, grab one more. Get that started. All right. And I like to grab my needle nose here. Oop. And we'll tighten it down, and then you can see the gap closing on both sides. All right, that looks good. We'll go ahead and do the same on this one. And again, you can see the gap closing on both sides. All right, that feels really good. Okay, so let's check this out for a second. Everything looks like it's nice and together. Okay, so the only thing that you guys wouldn't have is these wires sticking up just yet, because you wouldn't have the slip ring in just yet. And I would normally take that out, but I'd have to cut the wires, and I'm just not going to do that for this video. Okay, so now we can press on our track gears, or we just continue with the running gear. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of flip it up to the side here, and then we're going to grab our rollers. All right, and so these rollers had to be kind of skinny. I needed them to go inside of the tracks here. So unfortunately, I couldn't get 2 bearings in, so I was only able to get the one. So go ahead and start pressing your bearings into all of your rollers. And then what I like to do is I actually put the bearing facing towards the inside. I don't know if that's going to do anything. I just feel that the dirt, a lot of it's going to come from the outside. In theory, I don't know. So maybe the bearing would be a little bit more protected if it was facing the inside. Again, that's just my theory, and I could be completely wrong. It might not matter at all. So just take that with what it's worth. So with these, normally I would be using fine thread rod. Because of how small and light this machine is, I don't think it really matters. So I'm using some self-tapping, I believe these are 20 millimeter. Yeah, self-tapping 20 millimeter. What you can do is you can get some M3, just M3, or excuse me, 3 millimeter rod. And you can get pre-cut ones on Amazon, 20 millimeter ones. And then just pre-drill these to 3 mil. And then you could just press these pins in to make them, just to make it look a little bit better. That's how the real machine looks anyways, just pins. I don't mind the look of this head here, especially it's black. You don't really ever see it. So that's what I'm going to use here. So M3 by 20 self-tapping screw. All right, so we'll go ahead and start to thread it through just until I see that head or the tip of the screw, and then I'll get my roller in. All right, and it rolls just fine. It can move up and down. There's a little bit of wobble, but this machine's so small, I don't think it matters. All right, so go ahead and do that with all the rollers, and then we'll get to the big rollers. So I'll probably speed this up, but. All right, and then for the front one, you're gonna go ahead and take a M3 by 20 millimeter flathead or countersunk. Okay, take your big idle roller and then press your 2 3 millimeter bearings, one on each side. All right, we're gonna go ahead and both sides are the same, but one side had some supports printed on it, so I usually put that towards the inside, have the clean side out. So slide that in, go ahead and get it to go through the roller there, and then what we'll do is, where's my screw? Right. We're gonna go ahead and just tighten this in. Yep, not doing that by hand. Grab your bit, and then go just until it sinks. Oops. All right. All right. So then we're going to take our upper one, and with this one, with this one, I only wanted I didn't really, I don't know what it was. I didn't have a long enough self-tapping screw, but I'm just using a fine thread on this one, and this is a 25 millimeter button head. And then you're going to take your upper roller here and just go ahead and get that into position. And what I'll do is take my screw gun and then go ahead and start screwing it in. And then just watch the backside. You don't want it to hit and then bend anything or break this tab here. So I can see it hit the backside, and then we'll just go until it seats right on there. That way my roller spins freely. All right, so now all of our rollers, everything's looking good. And we'll kind of center those, and then we'll take our gear. All right, and then this is just a press on. I know some of you guys are thinking, well, won't it just strip? I haven't had one strip. I don't know. I don't think it will. I think it's not heavy enough to do. But in case you guys don't like that idea, you could definitely take one of these, take one of the set screw or grub screw, and then you can put it inside this hole here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a hole right here. I don't use it. I just press it on and have never had any issues. So let's go ahead and get that pressed on. Make sure it's sitting away. Okay, and then once that's on there, what I like to do is I'll kind of just look down. I'll look down inside it, and I want it to be lined up with this. All right, so that looks very, very good. And if I had to guess, I'd say there's maybe 1 millimeter of gap there. Maybe not even that. Maybe like anywhere between a 0.5, like a half a millimeter of gap between the housing and the gear here. And that'll be it for the running gear as far as for the tracks. So I'll go ahead and power through this and get this side done, and then we'll move on to the next steps here. Okay, so we got that again all finished up, and front aisle rollers look really, really nice. Looking good. I think everything's rolling really, really nicely. So we're gonna go ahead and set this aside. One thing I wanted to point out for you guys is make sure that you're paying attention to the distance from here, and then look at the distance here, and you kind of want to make sure that it's even. I know it's a little tough to just eyeball it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be close. You don't want it to be too far in or too far out. So we'll set this aside. We're done with the undercarriage for right now.